Christmas is less than a week away, and during this time of year, a lot of people's mental health is in the toilet. And there's this prevailing notion that irritates my spirit that black people in particular don't take themselves up out of the game, or at least we don't take ourselves up out of the game in certain ways. And just recently, over the last month or so, we've lost two prominent content creators, either on TikTok or over here on YouTube. One being a woman named Rizzy, who was a part of a messy, demonic culture that exists over there on that app, to where they're very messy and it's a lot of rumors and it's a lot of gossip and it's a lot of back and forth, yada yada. But then over here on YouTube, we lost Lamar Wilson, who was a person a lot of people grew up with, watching him do his video game unboxings, his Oreo reviews, his nerd culture content, where he always presented as a beacon of light and hope and joy. You just never know what somebody's going to. I mean, you juxtapose that with the creator over on TikTok. Of course, she's a part of a messy thing, but even still, that influenced her to take herself up out the game, from which she strange fruited herself from a ceiling fan, mind you. And then Lamar Wilson, who took himself up out the game, which we found out he took himself out the game, which obviously broke a lot of young people's heart. I believe Lamar Wilson was 48 and this young lady was, I believe 23. So young people, right? Too young to go out here. Both black people, one male, one female, that took themselves out the game. It doesn't make you a weak person because you can't handle this shit. You understand? Or because you can't find something to latch on to. Because I've been there. I've been so low that I wanted to go out here into the wetlands and march myself into the desert and just finish the job. And what kept me from doing it, I'm gonna give y'all a story. When I was younger, when I was in about 5th grade, me and my family, we had to go stay with my uncle. And shortly before we had to go stay with my uncle, he had maimed his husband. Okay, my uncle was homosexual. He had maimed his husband in a way in which he detached his sack from his body. Just put it like that. I had knowledge of this. We all had knowledge of this. And David was in a hospital, or I think he had went to jail. They had got into it. It was a whole thing. So my uncle, he had the whole house and the whole operation to himself. And there was people in and out of the house, blah, blah, blah. And they had got into it, and it was like a whole thing. So we were staying there. We had just started staying there. And so obviously in my imagination, this whole crazy, gay, niggas ripping nuts from bodies thing is already a nightmare. So when to my surprise, when we're laid up in there, David walks into the house with a knife, okay? Now, David wasn't on that type of shit, but my young brain, take in mind I was in 5th grade, I had no idea I didn't know. All I know was this man had recently had his nutsack ripped off by my uncle. He comes into the house, he's holding a knife, probably because he was cooking. Like, they getting into it. The first, I was just in fight or flight. I dart out the house. I just leave. It's in the middle of the hood. I run as far away as I can to try to get to a payphone. Take in mind, this is in the 90s. I'm running. I run. I keep running. I'm trying to run as far away. In my imagination, my uncle's husband is probably there just butchering people with this knife, you know, cutting off nut sacks, just going crazy, right? So I go to a payphone and I call the police. And I say, 911 answers, and I say, I think there's gonna be a murder. And they're like, where are you? Who are you? And da, da, da. And that like scared me off the phone. So I was like, oh fuck, like, she was like, oh, why are you playing on the phone? It wasn't like she was concerned. It was like more like, what the fuck are you talking about? So I ended up hanging up the phone, the payphone, and I just ended up going back because now I'm thinking about my mom and my brother, right? So I get back, and take in mind I had ran about a quarter mile away. When I get back, the sun hadn't already went down. I'm about a block away, and I see at the payphone around the corner from where we lived at the thing, my mom and my brother was standing there, and my mom was bawling her eyes out. And of course, I run across the street to her to be like, are y'all good? Da, da, da. And nothing happened. Obviously, my imagination had ran wild in that moment. That's what made me fight or flight. But to see her face when I came across the street, I had never seen my mom like that. And my mom was like a tough lady. I've seen her, sensitive or cry over that, but never over us. And I thought she was going to be mad. She was panicked. She was scared. She was like, her child was gone. She didn't know where the fuck I had went. I just darted out the house, and she just grabbed me and she just hugged me and all this other stuff. So years later, I have a family of my own, and obviously maybe for whatever reason, I wasn't able to provide enough for that family, so I went into exile. And in that exile, I found myself being at a low point in my mind. And I would venture out into the desert every day and contemplate, you know, taking myself up out the game, just like really doing it. But what kept me from doing it was the fact that I remembered that my life don't belong to me. If I did that, if I didn't show up back home, my mom would be like, "Where are you?" She would be worried. If days went by, something, she didn't hear from me. I think back to that time of me running across the street and seeing her face. She would be stuck in that for the rest of her life because I decided to take myself up out the game and hide myself away somewhere because I couldn't handle the pain that I was going through, the pain of being what I felt like being rejected by my family and not being able to just feel like I didn't feel like the man that I felt like that I wanted to be at the time, and I felt like it wasn't worth being here. And what kept me here was the fact that my life didn't just belong to me; it belonged to my mother, it belonged to my kids, it belonged to people who would mourn this. And in this time, it don't just belong to my family or people I consider to be my friends, which I don't have any friends, I really don't. But it belongs to y'all, my audience, and people like that. So that keeps me here. But most importantly, above all else, what got me through a lot of the recent drama and turmoil and self-doubt and pity and the things, especially going into my birthday, I was in a real dark place. And last year, and every time I'm going into the season, I'm in this headspace, is that my life is not don't just belong to my family or my audience. It belongs to God, right? This is a divine spark that was given to me, and I have to make sure that it burns for as long as it naturally can without me extinguishing it myself, because this is a gift. And I know that is speaking from a position of a certain blessed privilege, because I have been blessed in my life. I am blessed in this time, and I hope to continue to have God's blessings over me and my family. I do. But even without those blessings, in a time where I feel like I've been in a place bereft of God, I have to remember that this life is not just my own, that it belongs to a higher power or higher authority. And when you see that about yourself, you understand that you are a valuable asset to this universe, and you have to stay here. A person like Lamar Wilson, who made, I've followed his content for years here on YouTube, okay? Through his various collaborations, he'll pop up in your freaking feed whenever you start a new YouTube channel, because he's just such a positive person that the algorithm will push his stuff, and he's done different collaborations. And like I said, a lot of people have grew up with him. Whatever he was mentally going through, he felt like he couldn't be here. You know what I'm saying? And that's not to say, oh, he didn't have a connection to God, or he didn't have a connection to spirit or whatever. A lot of people that end up in that situation probably have had a very deep conversation with their Lord and they still felt like they had to make that choice. That's not for me to judge. It's not. But I'm just saying that what has helped me and what has been an anchor for me is the fact that I know that my life belongs to God, and it belongs to my family. And there are people that would care if I left, okay? And I know there are people that are probably watching this are like, well, nobody gives a F about me, so if I got about this motherfucker tomorrow. You don't know that. You don't know the effect you have on somebody's life just by showing up every fucking day. Even if it's just to your job. Maybe you just a quiet person in the corner over there that people can rely on, right? I know it may not be much, right? But it would hurt them to find out that you took yourself up out the game. The guy I work with is a white guy. Last year, rest in peace to Matt, took himself up out the game for some reasons. And, he left behind his wife and his child. And that sucks for his child to have to grow up to know that his daddy's not here because he took himself up out the game. Matt's life didn't just belong to him. And even here at work, even though none of us were close to him like that, it still affected the environment of work and the fact that Matt was a decent person, and nobody would have liked to see him go out like that. You understand? That affects people. Your life does reverberate throughout this time and space. Even if it is in such a minute way, you are a ripple in this ocean of existence. And to continue to expand that ripple, you have to stay here. You have to try to anchor yourself something. And the best thing I think you can anchor yourself to is God. trying to anchor yourself to your job, trying to anchor yourself to material, and even to a certain degree, trying to anchor yourself to people, certain people, is not as foundational as God. God ain't gonna just stop being God, right? And of course, you sometimes people, because even people that obviously they have children, the children aren't enough of a motivation to keep them here sometimes. Sometimes the children are a part of the catalyst that get them up out of here because of the pressure to not be able to provide, or not to be able to provide the life that you would imagine that you want for your kids. Because none of us wanted our kids to grow up poor. None of us wanted our kids to lack or feel like they didn't have. You understand? But sometimes, obviously, living in just reality, circumstances will show different, and your kids will grow up, and sometimes you could feel a lot of guilt and angst in yourself, especially if resentment comes your way from those children. And there are people that feel like, okay, I'm gonna take myself about the game. You could have a significant other that you want to give the world to, and yet just things are not adding up. And remember, everything I'm saying right now is material. Things are not adding up. And when you feel like you can't accumulate, what happens? You feel less than, you feel worthless, you feel like getting up out of here. Sometimes it don't have shit to do with anything. In my case, sometimes there's just a lack of emotional spark in you. Sometimes there's just a void in there. There's this dark void, and I call it despair. It's a pit that nothing can fill. You can't throw art into it. You can't throw hobbies into it. You can't throw sex into it. You can't throw music into it. You can't throw drugs into it. Nothing fills that void. It's an endless fucking gaping maw of despair that wants to drag your life essence and your soul into this abyss with it. And that sometimes can be inescapable. But the only thing that has brought me up out of that super darkness, that dark place, is God. It's the power of God. Nothing else has done it. There's been, even in this apartment where I've been in here, and I've called on God, and I felt like enveloped by this warmth to be like, you got this, bro. It ain't, you got it. Y'all got it. Y'all, if you feeling in a dark place right now, especially as a black person, I know in our culture, it's like, we don't do this. We don't hang ourselves. We don't do this. We don't do, but you can't say what people won't do if they're in a place that they feel like they can't get up out of. And like I say, it doesn't make you weak to tell people, yo, I'm feeling low. I'm feeling like I don't have a place here. I'm feeling like giving up. It ain't nothing wrong with telling people that, even if it is strangers. Sometimes you don't know what people who will reach out to you and help you and make you feel like, okay, maybe I should keep going. I know one of the things, at least over the last year, that has motivated me more than goddamn anything is my comment section. I've gotten more goddamn, y'all give me some of the best freaking compliments, and I mean that in the sense of like talking about my content and how y'all appreciate the stuff. So I feel an attachment to this beyond just what it started out as, just as a hobby. I feel like maybe I do have something to say just based on my life experiences, even crazy stories of my uncle's husband having his nutsack ripped off. These things obviously reverberate to things, because like I said, coming back from that, and even in that trauma, coming back and seeing my mom's face, the thing I remember the most about that day was that she missed me, and she was mourning me, and I wasn't gone, right? And I would never want to make her experience that here on this earth if I have the power to do it. If I can't control when I get up out this bitch, as far as chance and as far as the universe and God or whatever, fate, however you put it. But as far as myself, I'll do my best, and I'll fight every goddamn day to stay here. And I'm telling you, it's a struggle. It's a fucking struggle. It ain't like something that just goes away. You know what I mean? It ain't like something that just, there are the ups and there's the downs. It's like, it's like should be like a meter. Do I feel the self-deletion meter? How filled is that bar? How can I keep that bar at low where it don't fill up to where I feel like it's gonna overflow and I want to get up out of this bitch, right? Because we all have our threshold. We all do. We really do. There are some situations that I've seen. I've talked about this on this channel a couple years ago about MAID. MAID was a program. It's I forget what the acronym stands for. Medical assistance. MAID. Medical assistance in It's MAID, medical assistance in death, right? And I've talked down on it because I've said it's a demonic thing and blah, blah, blah. But I've had to like make my opinion about it a little bit more nuanced. And the reason being is because some of the people that have sought out those services, the situations, the medical situations that they're in, the pain that they're in, the immobility, the torture that they're up against, and the fear of insurance being cut off, and the lack of a livelihood, it has made me change my mind on maybe, that should be an option for people that are up against that wall. But even still, like, I can't recommend that, because even in that, maybe you can find a way to inspire people to stay here, right? But people say, well, what is the quality of life? And maybe their quality, and like I'm saying, it's so deep. It's so deep. But check on your folks. Check on the people that you think are the strongest, because sometimes the strongest people are bearing the heaviest loads, and they're probably fucked up, like, and you don't even know it. They able to operate because they are the strongest. You know what I'm saying? Just check on those folks. And like I say, if you need help, talk to somebody. Let somebody know I'm going through it. You know what I'm saying? Fuck a Christmas, fuck a New Year's. These events that we make up, they spike people's cortisol and they stress levels, and they make people feel this nostalgic fucking longing for a time that's long past. And people get in their head, and they miss mom, and they miss grandpa, they miss it. Because I get like that every year, and I don't want to, and I consciously tell myself, you ain't gonna get like that this year. But every year I find myself in that position. And like I say, we less than a week away from Christmas. We're about to go into Christmas, and like, I'm not around family, I'm not around people, so it could be a struggle sometimes just to even get over the holiday. So people say, oh, black people don't do that. You don't know what, you can't just assume what people will do just because of the fucking color of their skin. Humans are humans. People get depressed. Black people get fucking depressed. Black people feel lonely. Black people feel like they failed at some things. Black people feel like they miss some people. You feel what I'm saying? Black people feel like there probably ain't gonna be no goddamn hope for tomorrow, right? And like I say, sometimes you just have to goddamn pray on it and hope, you know, that God sees you, and that your life belongs to Him, and that you are divine regardless of whatever you're going through. And I hope y'all are having a fabulous holiday. And if, like I said, you're struggling, please seek some help. Please talk to somebody before you make a decision that is irreversible, because people will be affected by it, and you are important to this universe. With that being said, y'all, I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.